So they'd be happy now just be sitting in this main pack and taking things relatively easy whilst the strong men go out to try and win the stage today. The sprinters will wait, I think, till we get towards the stage into Bordeaux and then running up country on the flatter bits of the race. So you're seeing a different race today. So if they're just going along reasonably comfortably, bear in mind that we have covered so far 1,902 kilometres in all. The average speed 41.139 kilometres per hour. But we also had a very, very fast start today with the speed again rocketing up over around about 30 miles an hour. Typical sort of interim racing, something which Stephen Roche alongside me now has lived through in the past, and I won't say exactly a day off for the pack, but certainly I think Armstrong will be happy to have those 7 men down the road, Stephen.
Well, he is, but there's no doubt about it, riding 200 kilometres in the front there with his teammates all in front of him lying back there in 7th or 8th place is by no means a day off, because you must remember that there's still wind coming from both sides of you now and again, and there's a stress also of staying out of trouble and knowing the group is in front. Okay, yes, but no race leader likes the group finishing in 14 minutes up. That's the one thing. But in one sense, people might say, well, how come the other riders are not giving them a hand, or how come they're getting 30 minutes? And the profile off the route, it basically explains it. After 20 odd kilometres up before dropping down into Saint Etienne is anything to discourage any of sprinters. So what happened would be that the sprinters teams would be normally in an enormous situation. They would ride with the US Postal team to help them keep the gap down, and eventually close the gap down towards the finish. Something similar as we saw in the first week. But today, with a very hard hill coming some 15 kilometres from the finish today, means that there's a great chance, or there's no chance actually that any sprinter will be in there at the finish to win the sprint. So the sprinters teams are more or less taking a day off today, saying, well, okay, well, we wouldn't mind riding, but the finish isn't for our sprinters, so why should we ride? So the US Postal team are having to ride now by themselves.
I don't know if you went over that climb, Stephen, because you cut across country to come and join me in the commentary point after the celebrations in the morning in connection with the Coeur de Lion special competition for the combative rider. But I actually drove the course today. I drove the last 100 kilometres just to see how it was going, because to see where people could go away. In fact, this lot went before I even managed to get on the course in terms of distance. But that in the distance there, where those little hills are, I realised when I drove along there that climb could be riders have actually been up, because when the Tour de France routes itself up to the Alpe d'Huez, to Sestriere, goes up to the mountaintop finish that we know, over the Galibier, over the Tourmalet, all these big climbs. Many people know them, but then the Tour de France will take them across a different part of the countryside, and people think, did we go there before, and what was it like? And that final climb I drove it, that 2 kilometre climb, it goes up and up and up, and it twists and twists and twists, and it's very narrow. When you get to the top, when you come off the thing, it is very dangerous coming down. It is so fast, and the bends on it coming down, they've actually surfaced most of the road. They put some new road surface all the way down, and thank goodness it's dry, but it'll crack this little up. But you're quite right about Armstrong. He's got to have his wits about him, because say some attacks like Veronk starts to jump around on the climb up that one, and Zuller goes for him. It's a nasty climb and a nasty descent. So even that last 25 kilometres could be very dangerous today, and still the race could be in those last 25 kilometres, to me, full of drama.
Oh, definitely. Well, I'm not almost sure that I actually rode this hill once, Dave, in the Tour de France. And the hard part about the hill is it's length. Like, it's not a very steep hill. It goes up, they say in the book, and it goes up 3 to 4%, and it would be something, probably, I reckon that is okay. But the problem with it is the length of it. They'll have done some 200 kilometres before they get to it. Then it goes up then for 24 kilometres up. So it's the length of the hill which is more hard really than the gradient of itself. But these boys will have been out there for a long time, and the US Postal team have been riding very hard behind. They've been riding maybe not so hard, but they've been riding a tempo. So even riding a tempo, believe me, it does fatigue. And I can imagine when the other riders finally get to the climb, we will see some jumping around, because it's difficult for a team like the US Postal team to be defending on the flat and then to accelerate then on the hill, then to try and maintain the group as other riders attack. The likes of Zuli May as their place riders.
Saint-Julien, Moulin, this is the little town they're going through at the moment, Saint-Julien-Mollet. The 37 kilometres left to race today, and then they're going to be shortly tackling the climb up the Col de la Croix Chauboret, and that is a real nasty one. As they're going along here, they're beginning to move up towards the climb, and shortly they'll certainly be out there. I came through here by the way, see these little white tents on the right-hand side, Stephen? It's one of these little gatherings that various people have. I think it's PMU are holding out the function, and there's some lads on bicycles, these trial-type bicycles. They've got in the centre some logs, and they've got a seat and so on. By this lad, a table, he was riding up on these things, and the crowd were there cheering him on the way as he did these trials-type BMX things, and they were all having a great time. The bands were playing, the people are out there enjoying it. This is the Tour de France. This is the ambience of the race, isn't it, eh?
It is definitely. Like the last couple of years now, we've seen a number of what they call relay etappes, which is like Elf started off there about 3 years ago. They had a big hospitality bus situated about 40 kilometres to go thereabouts, where they would invite some 200 clients to lunch on the stage. They would come out there and have lunch in the publicity in this VIP bus they have. They would be tents all around it, have some kind of entertainment, and then when the race comes along, they'd watch the race go past. And then this year, then or last year, then the Tour de France started up doing their own one with Les Partenaires de Tour de France, which is actually the partners, the sponsors of the tour. They all chip in with their own kind of reception area where they would all invite their own guests every day to a lunch and a bit of activity, a bit of entertainment while they're waiting for the race to come past. And it's becoming more and more, and I must say there must be at least 4 of these what they call relay etappes en route. One is Elf, one is Tour, PMU have one, not every day, but PMU have one every couple of days. And I must say it makes the route a lot shorter, because people that are driving the route, I've driven the route myself a couple of times this year so far, and I've often stopped at 1 or 2 of them, and I must say you're very much welcomed, and the amount of people you get there that are so enthusiastic about cycling, it's incredible.
And yesterday, when we were in Alpe d'Huez, the night before, I met up with a crowd of German people who'd been invited by one of the sponsors, same thing, put up at a very smart hotel to go and see the finish, and of course they were interested. Had a win yesterday by that German rider, well, the Italian rider for the German telecom team, Giuseppe Guarini, and the president of the telecom team was there. He didn't know that. So here becomes the PMU sprint. They've also got a big entertainment. We might pick it up on our cameras here. There's another one. There we are. That's Elf, yes. Yeah. I saw them when I came through today. So along the way, the people come out here. They can watch what you're watching as well, too, on Eurosport. They are picking it up in those great buses. They have the television sets, and they also get the radio going, and they can pick up everything about the race. So before it gets there, they know what's going on, and they're cheering them on the way. So they can go back saying, I saw the Tour de France pass, and of course they can watch it. One thing about this event, it goes over 3 weeks. I don't know, apart from the Olympics, and they're individually different events anyway, different supporters for maybe the athletics, and different people supporting cycling, people supporting the archery. I don't know another event that attracts this sort of audience, can watch it physically and also watch it on television, that goes on for 3 weeks, Steve. And cycling seems to have a sort of particular niche in the, well, I use the word entertainment, sporting entertainment, but as I said yesterday on the Alpe d'Huez, that great amphitheatre with people standing there watching these people come, and it's free.
Well, that's what makes cycling so popular. Like, you can imagine after all the ongoing things in cycling in sport in general, but in cycling in particular over the last few months, when you see that this year the amount of people on the road are actually increased compared to previous years, the television audience has increased, people on the sides of the roads are become more and more enthusiastic about the whole thing. They're putting out banners of support for the cyclists and for the Tour de France in itself, and also many nice words of encouragement. So cycling, very popular sport. Doesn't matter what happens, doesn't matter who or what organisation or whoever tries putting it down, or what journalists or whoever start kind of criticising. I think the journalists themselves must sit back sometime and say, well, listen, okay, we've given everything about we've given all these dope problems, given all these problems with cycling, but the public still want cycling, and they want more and more cycling. That's the one thing to be with the drugs, because journalists must communicate, they must give the information, they must give the news. Okay, farewell, very well, but put it on another page. Keep cycling and sport apart, and highlight the efforts and the performances by the cyclists and by the athletes themselves.
16 minutes to lead. This is a breakaway group that you see on the screen now. 141 is Belly. In there is his teammate Lefebvre. Coniche group 2 is Falconi for the Mercatonino team. You see them there wearing the yellow and the blue. Vinacruz The casino team is in this breakaway group, and also we have Dirksen there in the national colours of Belgium, as he's their national championship, and together with Verbrugge also from the Lotto team. That is our 7-man breakaway group. The lead is 16 minutes now. I put it in a picture to you people back home in case you just switched on to see what's going on. I was very pleased to hear what Stephen just had to say, because he was driving here to join me when I had a word with Mark Gorski, and in that conversation, also when I came off air, I have been disgusted to read some of the things in some of the newspapers, the journalists inventing stories. Whenever I see a story about Lance Armstrong, they want to talk about dopage because he's head and shoulder above that. And I think that is totally wrong. They have no proof, nothing. They just seem to be smearing. And they talk about two-speed competition. And when Indurain was dominating the Tour de France, they didn't talk like this. Some journalists, and perhaps now I'll be in the press office, they listen to this, I'll be shunned by everybody. But some of the things that have been said, I want to see people writing about Lance Armstrong, the competitor. I heard Mark Gorski in my headphones telling us how Lance has fought back to health and fitness and how he's riding, and I do not like the innuendos that I've been seeing. I'm lecturing a bit here now, Stephen, please forgive me. On our screen now is Lance Armstrong. You can see on his face the pressure he's been through in the last few days, and every cyclist knows that at some particular point in your career you have 1 year or 1 month or 1 week or 1 day when you can just punch holes in walls, and we must respect that from any athlete. He has some days when he's unstoppable, and that's the way I see it, Stephen.
No, you're dead right, Dave. I think, but the journalists have to write what they feel and everything else, and that they do not. I go along with that, but at the same time, I think that without giving too much credit to the journalists, I think that an awful lot of things have happened and have come through over the last 15, 16 months, through the different books that have been written, through the different articles that have been written, through different what do you call them, procedures from the drugs control people. There's an awful lot of things that have come out about cycling, about sport over the last few months. So the journalists themselves are basically going into this, and every time some athlete does something, they're reverting back to these things. So in one sense, I do understand that journalists now have all of a sudden woken up now and come and they're writing about all this stuff. But at the same time, stop kind of talking about the two in the one phrase. Sport is one thing and the drugs is something else. We've heard all about the doping over the last few months now. We've tried putting cycling down. We haven't brought it down. Give it its full share now.
That's right. One of the natural, well, sorry, not natural, unnatural lakes on the left-hand side. You spot it there on the stage, taking the riders through to Saint-Étienne. Covering today 198 kilometres from Le Bourg-Croissant to the finish, stage 11 on the tour. We've been through the first sprint of the day at Druvry-Ferrari. Oops, what's happened now? Vinogradov. Yeah, he's gone.
David, I spoke to Vincent Lavenu this morning. Actually, I met him in the village, and one of the few people I met in the village. But he was telling me that Vinogradov, he says, think of this name, remember it, mark it down somewhere, and we'll talk about it in 3 years' time. He said he's had a very, very discreet tour so far, but he was riding a lot for his friend and teammate Kirsipu, and so he has not been able to ride his own race. He's always a pro. In a big tour, he has time trialing abilities. Well, we didn't see him very the other day, but at the same time, he reckons he has time trial ability. He's a good climber, a reasonably good sprinter, and a very clever and intelligent rider when it comes down to race tactics. So I do kind of half believe in what Lavenu has said, because a guy like that at 23 years of age, coming along here, riding in his first tour, and sussing out the good breaks, and to do what he's doing here today, I do believe it that Vincent, if this guy does his things right, we will be talking a lot more about him over the next couple of years.
Well, look back to the Dauphiné-Libéré, which he rode that one, which is a little race. You've ridden it as well, Steve, in the past. I mean, you might even tell me now you won it, because you probably did. But he won that race. He won stage 2. He went on then to dominate the race.
Sorry, Dave, Dirksen's gone now, counter-attack. Yeah. This is a hill now. It's going to be very, very hard for the lads behind, because the grading is not very steep, but it will still encourage many riders to go. And I reckon in the bunch behind, we're going to see a lot of attacks. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah, going back to Dauphiné-Libéré, Vinogradov won stage 2. He went on to be overall victor of that race. Voters, who crashed out this race, was second. Belly, who's in that breakaway group, was in third spot. Armstrong, actually, Dauphiné-Libéré, finished second on stage 7. He's back in the main pack. But we're now getting a different situation with these riders. And I, when I was entering the competition for the journal, put this man down to be in second spot, funny enough, Dirksen. Yep. Because Gaydon would also, this was a day I thought when some of the chaps who got the ability to last the distance, could probably climb that final hill, would go away. And I put Dirksen down there because that man now, if you look at the state of the Lamprey-Daikin team, there's only Serpolini, Dirksen, Piccoli, Pinotti and Verstappen left in the team, so he has no team responsibilities. This man is also an example to many other people. I think he's, 35 years of age or something. He's come in the sport. Look at the determination on him. And we're having a different day's racing today, aren't we, eh?
Oh, yeah. It's I mean, this isn't the first time I've seen Dirksen on our screen as well. We saw him in the first week having a go a couple of times without having any success, but nevertheless we've seen him having a go a couple of times. So here he is again today, 15 days into the race, on a fairly undulating stage, going away. And I must say they've been away there now for almost 100 kilometres, and with him having a go like that, he must obviously feel fresh and very confident as well, because this hill is very, very long.
It is, and it goes up and up. And the other thing about it, I thought, Stephen, too, that as a stepping stone to try and win the stage, is that it twists and turns, and therefore once you get a bit further around here, you're out of sight, out of mind. People know you've gone down the road, but until the blackboard comes along, you don't know what the gap is either.
No, and I think that the peloton, or the group is just left. I don't see them being organised enough to actually chase Dirksen down. So I reckon you might see somebody else trying to get out of the group late in a few minutes. But at the same time, I was surprised to see them letting Dirksen go so far before there was a reaction from the group behind. So are they cooked at the moment, or what's going to happen?
Well, because they've been out so long, I remember they've had, you viewer back at home, they had 2 days in the Alps. There's a lot of tired legs there, and really some of these chaps here may not have the ability to respond. Belly had crashed and hurt his ribs anyway, so he's not in particularly good form. Konashev has been riding quite hard in the mountains early on to try and get him some points in the Kingdom Mountains competition, so he might be a bit cooked too as well. And of course the riders here from Lotto ought to be able to combine and do something, but I think we're down to one Lotto rider, aren't we? Yeah,
there's the one Lotto rider there. There's 2 Festina lads there.
Yeah.
They should be doing it. There's one guy in the front here at the moment, so the other guy might, I reckon, try and counter behind once we get to a steeper part of the climb.
Well, he rode with the Lotto team last year, didn't he, Dirksen? And now he's switched over to this new Lamprey-Daikin squad, so his Lotto mates back behind him will certainly know what he's capable of, and he's setting off down here. Tremendously powerful, strong rider. This climb, as you say, Stephen, it goes off a lot longer than people think, but it's built for a power man, isn't it? It's not what your typical mountain goat climb, is it?
No, it's a strong man's hill. That's why we're saying it's a long gradient, 3-4% in gradient, and it's still a strong man like Dirksen.
Rights from stage 11 of the Tour de France, Le Bourgeoison to Saint-Étienne. And remember when we were last with David, Ludo Dirksens had broken away from that little 7-man group all on his own on the last long climb to the top of the Col de la Croix de Chauveret. If he could stay clear to the top, he was almost odds on to win the stage, and it would be his very first stage win in the Tour de France. So with that set up, let's go back to the action now with David.
Dirksen burying himself here and trying to split the whole thing up. We had 7 men who went away in this stage. We went over the sprint at Veri-Vorare when Steele's got the victory there ahead of Zabel in second spot, O'Grady back in third. So the points competition should still be with O'Grady in green. That was after 58 kilometres. When we went over to the top of the Col de Parmeni, they began to sort themselves out, and this breakaway group launched themselves into the distance. And the last time check we had, it was 16 minutes. And the determination on this chap's face is not so much he wants to put place between himself and the main pack containing the yellow jersey Armstrong, but dropping off the remnants of that breakaway group. Absolutely tremendous performance.
It is. There's some 20 odd kilometres to go, but he can still see today. There's four men that break there now, Dave. There's 2 guys gone, is it, Dave?
It's Falcone's been dropped off the back, actually. Yeah, Falcone's gone. Vinacroft started it all, and the Belgian reeled him in, and off he went down the road. So now Falcone's been dropped off the back, and look, they're only down to 1, 2, 3, 4 men.
There's 2 in between, I think, Dave.
Are they in between? Are they gone off the front?
I think so, yeah. I thought I saw from the helicopter.
I know Falcone's been dropped.
There, Dave. There's one there. Vinacroft.
Yeah, because he started all, didn't he?
Yeah.
16 minutes lead, and after 159 kilometres of racing, the lead was 15:08. He's now grown up to 16 minutes, and Dirksen has now attacked and left the rest in all sorts of trouble behind. Falcone's been blasted out the back, and he still persists.
Well, Vinokurov, if he's got good form, he could come back, Dave. But I heard this morning in the village from Avenue as well that they were going to have a go today because, as far as I know, the casino team comes from around, the casino team, the casino direction of the shops, and that comes from near Saint-Etienne.
Now, while you're watching, ladies, let me give you a bit of information, because you're perfectly right, Stephen. Now, we're going to have a function tonight up the greens. The green is the football team Saint-Etienne, and it's a football team with a distinctive green strip. It was founded in 1931. I know that. And a fellow called, Geoffrey Guichard Stadium was built with funds from the casino supermarket chain. So the casino have got a link with Saint-Etienne. The supermarket chain, then, the money was found to build the Geoffrey Guichard Stadium, and it was in 1938 when the team reached the first division, and it continued to excel in the field. In fact, I think it's now gone back into the first division, and we're going to have a function now. So there is the link with casino. Obviously, the man who owned the business built the stadium and has a link with Saint-Etienne. So you're right.
Gee, Dave, it's great to get something right sometimes, isn't it?
And I knew the story too. Homework, it's called. Homework, till the early hours of the morning.
Dirksen has a bit of a Pantani look about him, Dave, hasn't he?
You mean because he's got his head shape?
Yeah, I'm talking about Pantani. He's actually going to race. I think he's starting to race again this week or next week, I think. This morning in the village, the Italian journalists were all kind of asking, Stephen, what do you think about Pantani starting to race again? That's what he's a bike rider, isn't he?
Yeah, of course.
They're making a big thing out of it, whereas basically that's like he was a bit upset over the fact of getting eliminated from getting put out of the Tour of Italy. Level being too high, but at the same time I said, without going into any details, it's like, that's part of life. You get those obstacles in life, and Pantani's got now bigger obstacles for him to get over. So as far as I'm concerned, there's no reason why he should even think or contemplate stopping cycling.
Lefebvre here trying to find his way back to that breakaway group for the Festina team. Up there too in that leading that group, trying to chase down our leader Dirksen. We can see the lads from the Lotto team. There is Konashev still surviving, number 18. That's Belly, number 141. And Vinokurov, who started it all, now settling down, just trying to track after Dirksen, who may blow a gasket. This thing goes on a lot further than you think. It's an awful grinding climb. And you're probably right, I think, to stay with this group. Vinokurov started it, but I think this little four-man group, if they work together, Mr. Dirksen might find himself in all sorts of trouble. It goes up and up and up and up and up. They
must work, David. They must work together. But look at Belly here at the moment. He's calling the guy from Lotto Rider through because he's Verbrugge. Because if they can keep riding together, they will be able to, I think, catch our man in front there.
Right. We've got Mark back. Mark Gorski, you're back on the phone with me. Hello, Mark. Mark Gorski, are you there? Well, they called out my headphones from Paris, so we got Mark Gorski. Mark, are you there? It's gone beep, beep, beep again. So perhaps we've seen. Mark, are you there? No, it's broken out. Okay, we'll try and come back to you later on then, while the action's coming thick and fast. So as Belly and Lefebvre try to sort themselves out, still one man down the road. Well, there we are. That's the map. That's where they're climbing up the Col de Croix de Chambord, 1,200 metres above sea level. This young man here trying hard to stay on the back wheel. I don't think he's going to go too much then, because he's getting one of these up-and-coming young riders. You can see the gap on your screen now that Dirksen at 24 seconds for this chase group here, and the main pack out of contention for the stage today, 17 minutes and 22 seconds behind. So there, Belly suffering from that crash when he hurt his ribs, now wearing 141, 91 here, Vinokurov going through, and we see the rest of the riders who just survived this little onslaught by Dirksen to just stay there. Number 18, Konashev, looking good. Konashev seemed to have gone through a bad patch, but he's back again now, isn't he? I thought one time he was on his bike and back to Russia and that was it, but he's come back good.
He is. Konashev's a guy who's kind of every year in the Tour, and he comes along. You can never say, well, Konashev, don't worry about him. He's not going to do anything, because Konashev is the kind of rider that he's a puncher and likes getting one stage or doing something on any one day of the Tour. Today is obviously a day which he's chosen for himself, with it not being too difficult as regards the profile. So as we come to 27 now kilometres to the finish, you see Dirksen at the moment, he's pushing those pedals even harder again, but will he be able to sustain the group behind if they keep working like they are working at the moment?
Well, the top of the climb of the Col de la Croix de Chambord is 18.5 kilometres to the finish, so he's still got something like about 10 k's to go, and a lot lot of good chaps dancing around behind him, and better climbers than he is too, really, because I'd rate Belly as a better climber than Dixon. So there, Belly on the front, Konashev just behind him in the yellow and dark blue, Vinokurov just behind him then, and this young man from Lotto. Again, we're seeing so many new riders in the race this year, and there, Rick Verbrugge, they've got 3 in the under-25 competition, riding for the Lotto Movistar team. Ertz has been going very well, De Waal, we haven't seen too much of him, and this young man, Verbrugge, and there is the chap from the Casino team. Long bodies, chunky sort of ride.
Definitely could lose a bit of weight, but he's only in his second year as a pro, so the weight will fall off. Like when I went professional in 1981, I was 72 kilos, and 3 or 4 years later, I was down to 64 kilos in the summer. I won't tell you what I've gone up to now, but it's I lost like 6 kilos just from racing, no diet, nothing else, just from racing. And if I had the knowledge that the riders have today about the diet and everything else, I probably would have gone from 64 even down to 60 kilos because of the nutrition, the diet, and every experience that the doctors and masseurs and the cyclists have today.
Well, that's what transformed Lance Armstrong too. He's lost a lot of weight. That's why he's able to climb the mountain. We wouldn't have seen Lance before his illness doing what he did in the last 2 days riding those mountains.
I wouldn't say that. No, I wouldn't say that, because I've seen Lance before his operation, before his illness, and Lance was a reasonably good climber. Not a climber like yesterday, but he was only 21, Dave, 22.
Yeah, right.
Like he was very young. Like when I started off, back to me again, pro in 81, I was nearly last in the Dauphiné Libre. I was 45 minutes down every day behind the leaders. I only started climbing basically 3 years after becoming a pro back in 83. So and then I kind of developed myself then after that. So unfortunately with Lance, we've no real reference. He was growing, he was maturing. So there's nobody can tell that. Well, people say, oh, Lance had his operation, blah blah blah. He was everything else. He's come back and everything else. Like, I say, well, he hasn't. There's no miracle there. The miracle is there. He's still with us. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But at the same time, Lance Armstrong was in full progression when he was hit with his illness. So who knows? This may have maybe delayed his progress, maybe, but at the same time he had shown the potential. He's the youngest world champion, Dave, if you remember.
He was, gosh.
And what a world champion he won, because that world champions in Oslo was very hard.
Woof.
And the stage that Lance Armstrong won the Tour back in 91 or 2 thereabouts, I was in that breakaway group, and it was because I did an awful lot of riding that day, and Lance didn't do very much riding at all, but okay, it was a very hard stage and a hard finish. I forget where the finish was into, but I know he hung on.
Was that the Verdun one? No,
probably was. His first stage win.
Yeah.
Like he was only 21 years of age.
Yeah.
You know, and but like he was coming up, he was a rookie then. He was a hard man, you know, and basically the only thing that's changed with Lance Armstrong really is the fact that he's probably more acceptable now in the peloton. That he always thought that the cyclists themselves were all rivals and no goods and nothing else. Whereas now, because of what has happened during his illness and everything else, he's realised that cyclists are, yes, they're hard on the bike, but there is a nice side to cyclists as well, a genuine side to them, and that he discovered during his illness. So I think that, I think Lance did yesterday was great, but at the same time I think that it's nothing really. He's lost the weight, it's helped him a lot as well, but Lance was a guy right in his kind of on for doing big things before his illness. So basically all he's done now is he had a year or two out there because of his illness, unfortunately, and we're glad to have him back with us again the way he is. But at the same time, before his illness, Lance was a bloody good rider.
Well, I know he also is a Texan, and all apart, the Americans will tell you things about Texans too. That great big state in America where they say the sun is riz, the sun is set, and we ain't got through Texas yet. It's a big place, but they've over the years have had some great men come out of there, and one of them is Lance Armstrong. We've just seen as Dirksen goes through 25 kilometres to go, the chase group trying to be organised, Belly waving his hands, saying, come on, let's get stuck in, because they realise that if this chap gets over the top of this climb, they will not catch him on the descent. Provided he stays upright on his bike, he could run down to Saint-Etienne. They've got to get that chase together, those 4 men behind, with Verbrugge, Belly, Vinokurov in that little group behind. And you'll see him here with Konashev too. So they're closing the gap down a little bit, so perhaps they're beginning to get smell that they might pull him back before we get to the top of the climb. They are, in my opinion, slightly better climbers, but if they don't get him going down the other side, he could disappear because he's a bigger bloke. That's our 4-man chase group coming after this fellow here, and if I'm correct, I think it goes down a little bit and then goes back up again. It's a very twisted little road, and some of the big climbs, you can see the top, can't you? You've got an ambition when you're going up them, but this particular one, you just can't know where the top is, and you're driving away. This is a bit of a false flat. I was following some cyclists along here in my car, and it looked like you're going downhill, but there is a false flat here. It isn't as downhill as you think it is, so you still have to press and push the pedals, and then it goes back up again, and the big crowd waiting up on the top of the climb to see who will come through there first of all. And the second category climb before they go down in Sartène. This is the Col de la Croix de Chauboret. It's a second category climb. When they get to the top, 18 kilometres from the finish, they'll have covered 180 kilometres. This breakaway group formed as we went over the top of the Col de Parmenier after 80 kilometres have been covered. So getting towards the top of this climb, there you can see it on your screen now. They will have covered 100 kilometres, over 60 miles in the lead, and a lovely shot there back over that quarry. They're chopping away at the mountainside, and I noticed coming through there are a lot of banners out there. I think people are objecting to how much they're taking out of the hillside. As you go through certain parts of France, people take an opportunity to put banners up and object to certain things. And I think I'd rather gain the impression they didn't like so much quarrying going on in their back doorstep. But there you are, that's business.
I'm sure some of these cyclists today they would wish they were actually making a tunnel there.
Yeah, probably.
A 20+ kilometre climb at the end of the stage like this is very hard.
We haven't seen much. And the last time check we had, there was 17 minutes behind the action happening at the front of the pack, heading up towards the final climb of the day.
As an aerial view of Saint-Etienne, the eventual destination of this particular stage, Ludo Dierksens on his way to possible glory for him and his Lamprey team, being chased still by Vladimir Belly, Rick Verbrugge, Dmitry Konishev and Alexander Vinokurov. All he had to do, makes it so easy when you just say it like this, was to stay clear of them over the climb, down the descent, and the stage would be his. Let's now catch up with more of the action as we return to David and Stephen.
Oh, the angels up there again. We get some strange people turning up on the side of the Tour de France to either impress the neighbours or get themselves on television, and that was the angel. Further up the course, we're actually the devil as well, because I saw the trident already painted on the side of the road toward the top of this climb, where Dierksen is trying to stay away from our breakaway group. 4 men chasing him down. We started with 7 men, but one by one they've been sorting themselves out, and this is the main pack. Not too bothered, because the best placed man on the general classification, Vinokurov, in that breakaway group, start this morning 44 minutes and 32 seconds down on the GC, down on the yellow jersey of Lance Armstrong, so they're not going to bother too much. And it's now who's going to win the stage today. Well, I've got this man Dierksen down to finish second today in my selection for the performance, so at least I get a point if he wins the race. But he's one of those determined characters. I just felt at some stage during the Tour de France he would do well on a stage, and if he gets a stage today, that will give you people watching the race an understanding that in the race, these riders we've got in the competition today, 160 of them with J Speed, Lantern Rouge at the back, they all have a part to play as domestiques, but when suddenly the opportunity comes to go and get a stage victory, then they grab it with both hands, because you can look taking either the green points jersey, the polka dot jersey, or, as my good friend Stephen Rose sitting alongside me here has done, take the yellow jersey, including stage victories too. So at the moment, the yellow jersey back confidently in the main group, allowing these chaps to go and try and get the stage victory. A lovely, lovely stage today. Lots of people out on the side of the road. And Stephen, I love the Tour de France because it's so full of contrast, isn't it? Every day it changes. I mean, all the big tours are the same, but there's something about the Tour de France that's got an ambience about it, with the food, the wine, the people. You get more people, international people watching it too. Look, there's the Danish flags, because it's a holiday time. Certainly the Tour of Italy gets intense interest from the media and from the spectator, but it's mainly in Italy, mainly Italians. You go to Spain, mainly Spanish. A few people go down to watch some of the other riders, but generally this is the most international. You've seen the distance there. I'm not sure it's the Belgian or the German flag. The flags on the side of the road are phenomenal. They come from far and wide to watch the race, don't they?
They do. Like also the one thing with the Giro is the Giro starts in end of May and finishes early June. The Vuelta is in October now, so it's very difficult. There's no school holidays at that period either, so the Tour de France is blessed in the sense that it is in July, right in prime school holiday period, right in prime holiday period in itself, because people go on holidays this time of the year, and they make it. Some people kind of, I know they actually look at their Tour de France we're going to go down there. Oh, Tour de France goes by that date or this day, whatever. We go there that day. And Neil Martin, my husband, are coming over to the Pyrenees down to Pau, and they've actually looked at their holidays. Where can we go? We go there. We go there. Tour de France is coming down to here on such a day. Yes, we go there at that date. You know, so people do actually build their holidays around the Tour de France. Not so much build it around it, but if they can coincide with it, well, they go for it. So I mean, in April or in June, May and June with the Tour of Italy, you cannot do that. And in October for the Tour of Spain, you cannot do it either.
Well, I spotted coming along somewhere way down the road, a car on the side of the road with a thumping great Union Jack, and also draped over the window was the Australian flag. And I stopped and said hello to the people there. There we go. Look, there's Union Jack. Amazing, isn't it? We've got one British rider in the race. They've come here to wave the flag for Chris. And I said, stop. I said, well, what's going on here? Look, here we are. This is the American flag there. Stars and stripes going full bore. They said, the chap said, well, I'm English, and his girlfriend alongside him, or wife, I don't know, she has Australian connections. So they had both flags out. There's the Basque flag, for instance. This is amazing, the gathering of the people from far and wide that come to watch. And you sitting back at home can watch the race. That's the Spanish flag there on the right-hand side. As we go through the spectators all over the world, but certainly imagine Australians coming across here to watch the race, Americans coming to watch the race, and one by one, that was the French flag down the right-hand side. That's the Telecom flag there. That's just one for the German team. But really, the people want to come along. They don't just cheer their own nationality; they cheer everybody going through.
Exactly. This morning, like I've met Eddie Tobin from Enniscorthy, who was there this morning in the village. I didn't have time to talk to him; I was too busy. But then I met Dave Tansey and Phil Finnegan from the Orwell Wheelers. They came along to the village this morning, and they're on the road now today to Grenoble. They flew over yesterday, drove up last night, saw the stage in Optiways yesterday, stayed there overnight. They're driving to Grenoble today to watch it coming past on some particular location, then driving back to Nice tonight and staying there 2 or 3 days, and then home the weekend. Like, if Tour de France was not down here, those guys would have gone somewhere else maybe for the holidays, or a break as they call it. But you know, it's the Tour de France is so big, and it's got such a big following worldwide, not just in France, that people will actually, if they can get a chance to see it, they will come and see it. As you must remember, it is the biggest annual sports event of all sports events.
Well, there we have a rider from Kazakhstan wearing 91 on his back, riding for Casino, a French supermarket group. Just up in front of me is Vladimir Belli, who is an Italian riding for Festina, which is based in Spain, manufacturing watches. The other rider in that breakaway group, or the pick-up leader here, this is a Belgian riding for an Italian sponsor, Lampre, that makes sheet steel manufacturing purposes, and he is riding on an Italian bicycle. He comes from Belgium. He rides the Belgian national colours. If we go back up there, so we've got a Kazakhstan rider and also one rider for Brugge too. So it's a tremendous gathering of the clans, gathering of sponsorship and riders, and that's why people come along here to cheer the giants on the road. Just one little point that I'd like to mention, Stephen. I forgot to mention it yesterday. The day before, having seen Cipollini crash out, I understand, by the way, he's now signed for another 2 years for Psycho Cannondale, and he would not sign on the 13th of July. Although he agreed it, he didn't sign until the 14th of July. He agreed it before, but he wouldn't sign the 14th because he's superstitious. But when I drove over the top of the Mont Genèvre, I discovered all these sort of potholes in the road, and I discovered later on, talking about that, he crashed on those undulations. Now, we've been seeing on this particular part of the course so far lovely relayed roads. The Tour de France gets the road specially done, but Italy didn't seem to bother about it, and their Italian man crashes out.
Tour de France, stage 11 from Le Bourgeoisin to Saint-Étienne, and here Dixon's nearing the top of that climb after that false flat and a little bit of a descent before the final push to the summit. There you can see the banner over the road at the top of the climb. He's almost a minute in front at this particular stage. All he has to do now is the remaining 8.5 kilometres down the other side to the finish.
And so still Dirksen going down in towards Saint-Étienne. It drops all the way. If I remember driving down here, I can't remember a single bit where it went flat. Even right the way down, well, the flatness only comes in the last kilometre. So he's coming up to exit the countdown ahead of me, and they're chasing after him, but they've got 5 kilometres. 50 seconds?
Oh, I reckon Dave, like he's going the same speed as them.
Right.
So I reckon there will be...
But it says 1 minute 10 on the screen here.
10, yeah, I reckon it'll be good, yeah.
Yes, to the kilometre rider who does about a 1:10 on the track for a kilometre, they're going that sort of speed downhill, aren't they? So about 1 minute 10 seconds. So he has gone away a little bit since we went over the top of the time. They're actually 7 minutes ahead of the to arrive in Saint-Etienne. So if you're listening to our commentary somewhere in Saint-Etienne and you thought they're going to end up in here at 43 kilometres an hour at 16:55, 5 minutes to 5 in French time, you better nip down quick because we're going to get there long before that. It's 4:45 on my watch. I've got my yellow watch on with my yellow strap for Lance Armstrong here. I've got these 5 watches. They wear different colours for different days, and I've kept this yellow one ever since Lance Armstrong got the yellow jersey. This man is sharp left-hander here and goes on down a bit further, and he goes shortly past a pub called the Bar, which it's called a Simple and Funky. I don't know how you call a bar simple and funky, but that's what it is as he goes down in toward the town, still inside 3 kilometres, and it goes down and down, and they've really got to, I think, to challenge for second place.
Well, you can see now that the rhythm now from the riders behind have actually slowed down because they're more or less kind of accepted the fact now that they're not going to see Dixon again except in the shower or on the start line tomorrow morning. So they're basically at the moment they're riding to right into the finish. At the same time, they'll be trying to kind of hedge back a little bit, so to hold on to themselves a bit of energy for try to make a good sprint. My man here in the sprint, I put my money on Kunichev, who would normally be the fastest rider. Belly isn't that bad a sprinter. Vinokurov, Lavenu said he's a good sprinter as well, but this will be an opportunity now to see how well he does do. But will be in my books to finish second.
Well, he got that second place in Chambéry in the World Championships when your friend of mine, Sean Kelly, was back in third spot in the green jersey of Ireland on the and beginning to drive off the front here. The Credit Agricole team are beginning to put a man down the front. Can't quite work this out unless they're going to try and bounce off O'Grady to get some points in the points competition.
Well, I reckon they were trying to do is eat up as many points as they can in the finish line, because you have many points. If the first 10 in the stage get points, but the more men you have in front, the less points you've left then for Isabel to take coming into the finish.
So good tactics by Credit Agricole, firing men off the front. Britain's Chris Bourbon riding with the Credit Agricole team. Started out today doing a lion's job in the team. He was 100 down, and I said to you earlier in the programme, if you didn't hear it, I'll repeat it. Yes, he said, I've got it. But when I saw Chris Bourbon finish yesterday, he looked absolutely shattered, as is many of the people in what we call the bus at the back of the pack. But they were determined to get on today. They got out of their beds this morning at the Alpe d'Huez. It was last night. As the sun set, I looked as this man's got 1 kilometre to go across the mountains where we've been for the last 2 days. I can see the sunshine, the pink light of the setting sun on the snow across the craggy Alps. It's changed so much now from the cold which you had up there yesterday, and the cold this morning, quite sharp it was. The temperature went up to as far as 25 degrees, and now coming down into Saint-Etienne, this man Dirksen is going to romp in to get the biggest victory of his career. There's no doubt about it. This is the challenge. This is the way that people like this ride. I certainly got him down to have a second place today. I didn't think he'd get first. I thought someone like Simon for Credit Agricole might have got up that climb, but he got away. He stopped the climbers. He stopped Belly and people like that going with him on the climb. A very determined effort. He's ridden most of the last 30-odd kilometres on his own. Dirksen went away with 80 kilometres to go in the stage today. Has done now the thick end of 120 kilometres, either with a 7-man breakaway group or on his own. This is what cycling is all about. I love this. When somebody who is this age, he's always been there. He loves his cycling. He had a part-time job so he could ride his bike. Then he got sponsorship. Now he's got better. He's been one of those aggressive riders in the last 2 or 3 years. He's a man who never says I'll give up. He's always been able to have a go. Time and time again he's been caught and he hasn't got a stage, but today he's going to get that victory, and what a well-deserved victory it's going to be for the Belgian champion. Dirksen now winning the stage into Saint-Etienne. This is superb. This is what bike racing is all about. Savour the moment in Saint-Etienne for Dirksen.
Looks happy, Dave. No, great win, Dave. He's put in a great ride over the last 30 kilometres, so he definitely deserves the stage. The lads here now come into the final straight now. Watch for the yellow and the dark blue shorts of Konichev, who will be here trying to come off the wheel of Vinokurov. I think he spotted Vinokurov, hasn't he? Being the danger man. Yeah, and he has Belly on Konichev's wheel. Konichev there is lying in third place. So Belly can come by on the outside, but I don't think it's his. Not really. It's kind of a slight they're worried about Konichev, aren't they? Yeah. Real trackman sprint, Dave. Yeah. But Konichev would like to go a bit longer out. The longer he leaves it, I think more it is in the favour of Vinokurov. Surely, look at him, short, chunky little chap, eh? Yeah. Here we are, going to have a standing sprint, Dave. It's a typical track stuff, this, isn't it? Isn't it, yeah. Nobody wants to lead out. Wow, this is great. What a change. There's Belly on the right-hand side. We've had sprints in the first few days when we saw 50 chaps thundering down the finishing line, 10 men trying to go for it. Now we've got 4 men. There we have Konichev has kind of must reckon Vinokurov as a sprinter, because he's sitting on his wheel as Belly is starting to lead out.
So Belly had to go for this one because certainly Vinokurov and Konishev are known to be the hardest sprinters. The young man behind seems to be stuttering a bit for Brugge, and Belly realised, I think, that he couldn't get away. He should have launched himself a bit further back, I think, and this is going to be between Vinokurov for the Casino team. Remember, Saint-Etienne, casino-based operation. Can he get the success on the second place? It's going to be his, and it is! Ahead of Konishev, second as the third, and in fourth place, Belly. So the many people here from the casino operation, because they have big contracts, contacts with the town of Saint-Etienne. We're pleased at least they got a second place, but the elation today was for the Dixon of the Lamprey Dakin team, the Belgian champion, getting the victory as a fight for second place between Vinokurov and Konishev. Might have gone to Konishev. I don't know. Wait for the official result. That was close. Konishev, yes, second.
Vinokurov, Belly, Verbrugge, they were next in line, fourth and fifth, and this fellow who'd done quite a lot of work earlier, the Festina rider, Laurent Lefebvre, coming in sixth, some distance, about a minute or so ahead of Forconi, who came in seventh. But there was a great sprint for eighth place, and of course the green jersey could well have depended upon this. You can see O'Grady in green. He's not got quite the legs as on the right, left of our picture. Eric Zabel makes vital progress. So after a very happy Ludo Dierksen, speaking in Flemish, said, I think we started like crazy people today. We did 48 kilometres an hour over the first 10k or so, and then the race really started. We began to ride at a tempo that you only really get in the Tour de France, and after 10 or 11 days the riders are still riding at 50 or 60 kilometres an hour. It's great. Everybody tried to attract, but they couldn't escape as it was a big downhill road early on, and I thought we should wait until the second category climb. I thought, I'm as good as the rest of them. If you don't try, you don't win. I felt good, and I knew Vinokurov was the best climber, but the last 24-kilometre mountain is a climb for the guys who've got a lot of power. I felt that I'd got the power, my legs felt good, so I thought, go for it, and it paid off, and I've got myself a really great stage win that I shall remember for a long, long time. So there he is, the 34-year-old on the top spot on the podium in his Belgian champion's jersey. And, well, you don't see many smiles better than that, do you? And as for that bunch sprint, well, Zabel got himself a little bit nearer to the green jersey by winning this one for the minor placings. And afterwards, we had a word with his rival, Stuart O'Grady.
A bad one, so maybe it's just going to keep turning around. We'll just keep trying. And the most important is in the sprint finish.
Well, we wish him well. Now then, back to the best young rider, and there's been a change around, of course, since we last featured this. It's the Frenchman Benoit Salmon now, the casino man, who rode so well up L'Alpe d'Huez. Well, he asked him, you're the best young rider now, the leader in the young rider rankings. That must mean quite a lot to you. And he said, well, yeah, it is, although it wasn't originally my main goal. The most important for me was actually the overall ranking, although, of course, both of them together would be quite nice. What are you going to do in order to stay the best young rider from now all the way to Paris? Well, as I said, frankly, my goal is the overall ranking. I want to finish at the top 10. The rest, maybe the best young rider award, will follow. He sounds a confident young fella, doesn't he, young Benoit Salmon? And, of course, in his hometown, or the Casino's hometown, I'm sure that they're absolutely delighted with his performance so far. Stay with us for more on the Tour de France after this. Of stage 11 to Saint-Etienne. Dixon's winning eventually by 1:26 after that near track stand by Konishev, Vinokurov, Belly and Verbrugge. And the peloton coming in a massive 22 minutes and 18 seconds down. Incredible. But Zabel catching up in the green jersey competition. Meantime, Vincent Boiteau, former stage winner himself, he won in Marseille in 1989, said, well, it was a typical transition stage between the mountains, really. The favourites had a kind of rest because the previous 2 days were hard. We saw the group of 7 riders get away and take that big advantage of over 22 minutes, which means that the favourites didn't really want to race on this stage, but that fella did, and that was his good fortune. And if there were prizes for smiles, I think he'd have won that one as well. Vincent Boiteau said, well, it's one more great victory for him, even if it's a competitor who only became professional at the age of 30. He's still a rider with a lot of experience. At the start of his career, he was second in his national road race championships, and just before the Tour of course, he won it for the first time. Today, make no mistake, he's had a great victory in Saint-Étienne, and Dierksens is a great winner. I'm very pleased for him. And there's that magnificent Guichard Stadium in Saint-Étienne, where the football team draws so many fans for their home games. But today they were all watching the Tour de France, of course. No change really on the overall standings. They all watched each other today in the peloton. Armstrong, Olano, Zuller, Dufaux, Escartin, and even Virenque in 6th place. Now remember, over 10 minutes behind the powerful Armstrong, who really looks set, barring accidents, for victory in Paris. We perhaps shouldn't say that's still a long way to go. But he's still a happy man, isn't he, as he gets yet another yellow jersey. The man from Texas really having a good day today, recuperating, shall we say, along with all the others. Stuart O'Grady narrowly hangs on to that green jersey, only 3 points now separating him from Eric Zabel. So he's got a big fight on his hands in the next few days. Richard Virenque actually extended his lead in the King of the Mountains competition on the road to Saint-Étienne. With race director Jean-Marie Leblanc in the shirt sleeves, their well-known face of 5-time Tour winner Bernard Hinault, who now that he's retired from racing is one of the Tour de France officials, one of many top riders who are here on the race. We've had a talk with some of them, and he said, well, they're not the only riders here, you know, there's many ex-pro riders as well. It's a great pleasure for us, because it's really perhaps the only time we can all meet up and be together for about 23, 24 days. They do all sorts of relations, and some look after the teams at the same time. We don't just drive the cars, by the way. We're usually looking after guests in the car every day. For instance, I'm a driver, I've got Gérard Drouet, and together we know quite a little bit about cycling, so we've always got something to talk about. Another former winner alongside is the 1988 champion Pedro Delgado. Remember his great win the year after Stephen Roche's? And Pedro's got a new career now. Said, my new career on the Tour de France and the Vuelta, the Tour of Spain. I'm a TV commentator now for a Spanish station, which means I get to a lot of the cycling events. I'm really happy about that, because it allows me to keep up with the professional cycling. And it's really exciting as well to see it from the other side. Very, very different from when I was a rider. I have to look at the whole race now from a very different point of view. Who do we catch up with next? Lucien van Impe, another famous winner. In 1976, you remember, he won the Tour de France, and he also, of course, in his career won the King of the Mountains competition in the Tour no less than 6 times. And that, of course, is a record which Richard Virenque may one day equal. You never know. Van Impe said, well, I'm following the Tour in a car. I'm the driver for a Belgian television channel now. What does your day consist of, he was asked. You're driving, but you're not just driving, because you're also present at the start and the finish of the race as well. Yeah, he says, I go and see the riders before the start, see what's happening, and of course likewise after the race is finished. I love it. I've actually been involved in the Tour de France ever since 1969. Can you remember how many tours you've ridden and how many you've followed? Oh yes, I competed in 15 and finished at about 10 or 11 since. It's quite some record, actually, isn't it? The great Lucien van Impe. What a rider he was. Well, also on the Tour, Bernard Thévenet. Remember his 2 great wins in 1975 and 1977. He said, well, the day when I'm not involved with the Tour de France, and it will happen one day, it'll be a very sad and difficult day for me. One day, I suppose, it will come when I can't be involved anymore in the Tour de France. Believe it or not, this is my 27th Tour de France altogether, either as a rider, as a director sportif, or as I am now, as a commentator. But I dread that day, which will come, I suppose, when I definitely have to stop. It'll be very difficult. But of course, Thévenet, like all the rest, still in great demand for autographs. These old stars, you know, they don't fade away. They just keep turning up at the Tour de France to sign autographs. And it's great, isn't it? Really super to see them. Well, now let's look ahead to stage 12 and the views of the former stage winner Vincent Barteau again. We've got 4 climbs of third category, he says, and 2 climbs second category. Many more ups and downs. It's a very undulating stage. It's also a little bit longer, slightly longer, 201.5 kilometres. It's a stage in which you're always going to be changing your gears, sometimes big ones, sometimes small ones. It's not exactly a mountain stage, but it's a very hard stage in which a lot of riders of the same sort of level will try to get in front to get a stage victory. On this stage, you could have thought that we would have had a bunch sprint, even if there was a last difficult climb and an arrival disputed maybe between 25 or 30 riders, and instead we saw a 7-man escape. But for stage 12, I think we might have that finish with a group of 25 to 30 who will have escaped, because the stage is made up of so many ups and downs. We shall see. Well, stage 12, let me remind you, it's Saint-Gamier to Saint-Flour. It's a distance of 201.5 kilometres, and needless to say, we shall be with the tour to bring the action to you. We'll be going live at 3:10 CET, that's 2:10 in the UK, and of course we'll have our usual highlights programme at 9 o'clock in the evening, that's 8 in the UK, so I hope that you're going to join us once again. In the meantime, though, I'm going to leave you with the sights and sounds from this year's tour. This is Mike Smith, though, for the moment saying, hope you've enjoyed today. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.
They've got it together for a long time, but now they're starting to back off. Certain riders are starting to hedge a little bit, and that'll obviously slow the group down. So the best way of getting things right now is to attack, try and get away with 4 or 5 guys and get the same momentum going again, and try and pull away from the main bunch again. As we saw a few minutes ago, the gap has come down a small bit since Piccolo started. Piccolo started to ride. Governor having to go there now, Dave.
Well, is it likely to be that Hulot from France de Joux, he's their best placed rider in general classification, but he's down in 21st spot, 20 minutes 11 seconds down. He's doing a great riding, but the best placed confidence rider overall is Roland Mier. He's down in 34th spot. He's in his breakaway group at the moment, and he's got 2 other teammates in there, so presumably the thing to do is to drive this one along to try and see if they can brass the thing apart. And in fact, no, it isn't Mier, it's Cofidis. They've got Lely, De Wolf and Debian, so Mier's their best placed rider, and he's there. So Cofidis are really off the place, aren't they? But they must be trying to move some of their riders up, because De Wolf here, De Wolf is 50-odd minutes down for Cofidis. I know that Debian was really struggling further down, so they've really got to now try and put their riders up there. They've had a disastrous tour, haven't they, since Bobby Julie crashed?
They have, yeah, they've had a disastrous tour. So you see the group here now seems to be splitting, or not seems to be, has split. So this could be good for the lifespan now of the group, because there's Hulot, François, Simon, Montigny, De Wolf, Elie, Didier Rousse. So there's 7 riders in this group now.
And with so many riders in the Cofidis team, they're pushing it. So the man who's got to watch the action here, not get shelled out, is Hulot, isn't it? Because he must be able to take advantage of these chaps wanting to win the stage. And if he drifts with them, he'll improve himself over on general classification. A lot of chaps now very determined to get the stage victory. We've got 1 climb ahead of us, and then the final drift up towards the finish. Group of 15 riders now falling out amongst themselves, trying to thin the thing down. Obviously looking for passengers that might have been with them since we started the race, because this whole lot erupted first of all after 36 kilometres when Lely and Ellie went away to take the first climb of the day at the Col de la Croix d'Aumont. Mayer came up to them and then he drifted back, and then by the time he came to 50 kilometres at the Col de Prudhoe, Lely and Ellie still out there in front, but Bessie was forming up a group behind, and they were just ahead of the peloton by about 1 minute. And from then on the elastic broke, and this breakaway group of 14 riders went up to a maximum lead of just under 13 minutes, 12 minutes and 50 seconds. It's been coming down since then, and right now as we get towards the end of the race, the main group are also beginning to react, and we're looking to have a darn good finish towards this race, with that the third category climb to come and then the long little drag in towards the finish.
Well, Ulu seems to be have missed the boat, Dave. There's 2, 4, 6, 8 riders in this group here. We saw Ulu a few minutes ago there chasing with another guy to get back on again, but because this front group now are attacking constantly, it'll be very hard for Ulu to get back on again. Now, you see the gap there from a helicopter. Ulu has not yet come into the picture yet.
There is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chasing.
Yeah.
It really has split completely at the seams. He missed the wheels then.
Yeah, it's amazing because when 1 or 2 guys go, it's one thing, but when 8 guys go, it's difficult to say whether
he's having to chase. Look, he's taking Simon up with him as well. That could be Davion, I think, because he did a chap there for Davion. He won't come past him because he's got mates down the road anyway. On his own is Simon. On his own is Hurlo. But the man in the third spot is the chap who rides for Cofidis, so he'll take a bit of a drift up there. They're on the sort of flattish bit of that run up towards the Côte de Vendry Saint Loop, and then you can just see it kinks up a bit towards the top. It is a third category climb, nothing too serious, but I think after the distance they've been racing, because at this particular point, when they go over the top of the climb, they'll have done 182 kilometres, and that breakaway group has spent most of those 100 kilometres, most of 100 of those 182 kilometres out in the lead. So they've had 60, 70 miles of racing under their legs, and once they get over the top of this climb, it's just 19 kilometres to finish, with a nasty little sting in the tail today. And by the way, as the race is sort of settled in front of your very eyes here, you can see there's De Wolf in this little breakaway group. Casino seem to have got... the Castelblanca's gone through there for Kelman. That's a good move. They're not normally that sharp off the mark. The big match rider Gouveneau is in this one. Also, Lotz, you see him there going through. The Telecom riders started earlier out today. Ellie has got it. De Wolf is in there. And that's a good chase.
Yeah, now you have Mayer now in the front. So Mayer will become the best placed rider now in the group.
I want to check that it is Mayer or not. Let's have a look, because I haven't got him down there. I probably wrote, there's Goujo, Castelblanc, Lotz, very good, Davian, Bessie, Ellie. I mentioned Mayer earlier on, but in fact the Cofidis riders are Nelly, De Wolf and Davian. Yes, yes. There's been so many names flying about here. We just picked up the wrong words. Lely, Davian, De Wolf, Lely, De Wolf and Davian. There's your chase group with...
Yeah, apparently Mark Madio, the Director Sportif of Stephen Hullo, has come up to the sets again now, because it isn't looking good. Behind, the gap is still 12 minutes, but if you let those guys go ahead of you, there's no way you get them back, because there's Desbienne will not ride because he's got men in front. So really there's only Simon, there's only 3 riders back in this group here now can actually ride. So organise yourselves, put the head down and try and close the gap down quickly before it gets much bigger.
Well, that's Roos of Festina on the front. Yeah. Yes, Didier Roos on the front, then Hullo, then Simon from Credit Agricole. The other one who won't do it is Davian at the back. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and
it's already 24 seconds there back.
Is it? All right.
Yeah, 24 seconds back, so they have to really get stuck in now, because the gap gets any bigger, they won't see them again, and that'd be bad then for Ulu, because once this group seems to be gone out of sight, and it seems they're not going to get them back again, the riders in the group of Ulu are more or less going to resign themselves to the fact that, well, we aren't going to win the stage, we aren't going to move up on GC, so they'll be very quickly caught down by the peloton. So they either have to get it together now and come back to the group, or else they'll probably sit up.
Not doing much at all, is he, sitting on the back here, Wolf? He's just allowing this thing to roll.
But there's two guys in front, Dave. That's Desvienne, Dave. They changed the numbers again, if you remember. Desvienne.
No, that can't be Dave. That can't. Surely that isn't.
That's Desvienne.
Are you sure?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Well, let me just check on this lot here. Yeah, they've got him to your right, but they switched the numbers. This is making life very difficult, isn't it? Or perhaps,
something happened.
Was wrong.
Well, normally the printer normally is right, but I reckon I can reassure you, Dave, in this situation here, you're not right. Not wrong, sorry, you're not wrong. It's not your fault. It's the they've obviously changed numbers on a mistake somewhere, but that print off we have of the riders is done at the very last minute, so it wouldn't be a mistake in the print. It's obviously, I think, a mistake with the riders themselves.
So that's it, 25 kilometres to go to the finish, and they've got this coat ahead of the Côte de Vendée Saint-Loup, which will, I think, surprise a few when they get there, and then they will start their run down in towards the finish, and then that sharp little short climb at the end of it. But before we get deeply involved in the sprinting, what's going on, many things, both in London and in Paris. I got through yesterday. There were 78, there were 19 sheets of fax messages from you people back out at home, and the fax machine had no more paper left. Might be either splitting up totally or come out together. This is just blown apart the seams. These 40 men in that leading group have now gone all over the place, and I think we're now going up to Lotz is up here driving hard. Also for the telecom team, has been very busy all day. Ellie is up there. Lotz is from the Rabobank team, and Echeverria is doing the damage too, yes. Yeah. So that's Echeverria. Then there's the rider from Telecom, Ellie. Lotz from the Rabobank team in the white and orange. But I think those other chasers might be coming back to him. It has been breaking up all the way on these undulating roads coming on. I thought they might have kept together a bit longer before we got to the top of the climb, but perhaps they feel 14 men is too many. And just waiting for a time check coming in. The last time check we had was still 12 minutes and 25 seconds.
Yeah, it's difficult to know what's... So they're coming back the other day. Because they're playing around the front, there's no harmony in the group, so the group behind...
Yeah, they seem to have dropped off one, don't they? So
is that one dropped off? Is one coming up there?
We got a 50-50 chance of getting it right.
Well, he's in the middle, you know.
So the fax machine ran out of paper last night at the hotel I was staying with, and the manager was off duty, and he'd locked the spare fax roll in his room, so we couldn't get any more faxes put into it. So no doubt they'll find their way through to me, and I'll be able to read out some of the contents there. I also understand that back in Britain at home, there's been a whole sack full of mail deposited on the doorstep, which I look forward to reading when I get back. Sorry it can't be sent over to me here because it chases me all over the place, but thanks for what's coming through. And I said before that we're watching Eurosport from all over Eurosport. All over Europe. I had one of the emails from the Faroe Islands, from Asbjorn in the Faroe Islands, Asbjorn Natstad. Thanks for that then. And he said that one of his favourites here is the Dane Bo Hamburg Cantilla Toller, and also Hernan Honor. And he wants to know about the chances of those two. Well, I think both of them. Bernard is a darn good climber, and Bo Hamburg of Cantilla Toller is, but Hamburg has had some back trouble, and so Asbjorn, we're not going to see him doing well in the overall classification, but what we might see is in the Pyrenees that whilst the yellow jersey, we're watching some of the top contenders for the crown, sometimes you can get a good climber nip down the road and try and get a victory, and both Hamburger and your man that you're looking after there, Gunnar Hodder, are both very good climbers, but the pressure on the race right now means that on this particular part of the course they won't perform, and if they don't do anything in the mountains of the Pyrenees, then I think you're going to have to look for them staying further down the general classification. That lies ahead of us, but right today a lot of rabbits are playing. I shouldn't say rabbits because Ulo this morning starting out in 21st spot, darn good bike rider indeed, but it's a chance then for somebody to get a glory of a stage victory as Echeverria when the Once team goes off the front.
Every time the group comes together, Dave, somebody else goes out the front. I will see Echeverria having a go now. Should be good. It should be good now for Ulo's group, because Ulo's group should get back on now while the other riders start looking at each other.
This rolling road that we're on now, what do you call it? Roller coaster road. Rolly road. It's the one that was ridden by the people that took part in the Tap the Tour on Monday of this week, and 5,500 started it. And I had a fax from Andrew Coker, who said that it was amazing. It was just one big great race, and he said there were about 500 from the UK taking part. So the roads you're looking on now, there'll be many cyclists back in Great Britain watching this particular stage saying, I remember that bit, and I went through agony at this particular part here. And the information I got from Andrew Coker was that his wife Joanna was the star of their group, finished 5th women overall and 2nd in her age category, which is embargoed, in 7 minutes and 20 seconds. And he said that Messrs Doyle and Hales were the stars on the road. They were riding, you know, Tony Doyle's an animal on the bike, isn't he? And of course they got Rob Hales with them. He said that long flatter section, they led massive pelotons of what they call the Muppets. Tony Doyle calls all the people the Muppets, you see, hanging on. He said one time Tony Doyle must have had 200 riders behind him hanging on his wheel. One great big long string. I wish I could have seen it, by the way. And it was a great turnout. And the note I had from Andrew Coker said that along the way he saw big groups from Chesterfield and Rugby neck and neck in the competition for the most revolting kit. So people had a bit of fun out there. And I don't know if I'm going to have a chance tonight to go to the restaurant, because Andrew sent me the Tap de Tour from Gamme Saint-Fleur, a special restaurant here at the Hotel de la Poularde at Montron-les-Bains. I'm going to try and find it later on, because a beautiful menu here. And I've been going down the wine list apart from the food. Chablis Premier Cru Vaucapin 1996. Then with the next course, Pouligny Montrachet, one of my favourites, 1996. And after that, Volney Premier Cru Les Pitures, Bongrève, Nuit Saint-Georges. It was amazing. And the impromptu dessert de l'artisan with the Vin Surprise with a Moldovan, and it was jolly nice indeed too. Poached with gazpacho, with cauliflowers, scallops of foie gras. Oh, this, I'm just getting so hungry looking at this menu. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for those people who took part in the Tap the Tour. Thanks to Doug Sellers, who also sent me a fax and said all 6 of the group from Cheltenham finished. He got inside the time limit. So just missed the time limit, Doug did, by 10 minutes. He was sick as a pig with that. And even sicker was one of his mates who missed the gold medal by just 3 minutes on the race. So they took part in that Tap the Tour. You're looking at the route they took part on. He said they started at 7 o'clock, 5,500 riders leaving Saint-Galmier where we started this morning, and it took him 11 minutes to cross the start line alone, because there's so many of the people in the group, and most of the Brits were at the back on their numbers. And he said the first 23 kilometres we averaged 28 miles an hour, and the group split on the first climb. We've seen them all over there on the race here, and people had to jump across and get there. And it was amazing performance for those riders to go out there, and really it's whetting the appetites. And it says here that John Capelin, manager of the sports coaching team of Bristol, did a time of 6 hours and 55 minutes. Doug's time was 7 hours and 25 minutes, and another rider here did 6:58. So they've thrashed themselves to death. They're probably sitting there with their feet up now, enjoying the reminiscences of that event. I'll try and find out what also happened to Vic Sutton, who rode it to celebrate his 40th year that he rode the Tour de France way back in 1959.
Well, Dave, back on the race now. There's one man now in the front, Chablis in front. The 2 small groups we've seen earlier on have come together now. So Ulu now is still the best placed man in the group.
This course will suit this man Etcheberry on your screens now. He's gone away down the road. The 14-man group have been fighting each other. Little fragmentations have been happening, and Etcheberry, who is an extremely good climber, and this last little bit is going to suit him. But the question is, can he hang on as they go over the top of this final climb down in towards the finish at Saint-Flour? 19 kilometres left for him when he goes down the hill. So you can see here, with 20 k's to go, he's only got 1 more kilometre to go to the top of the King of the Mountains, and then whoosh, down he goes. But that last 1.5 to 2 kilometres, Stephen,
exactly.
Heavy, eh?
Yeah, but what a race so far, David. These boys have been out there now for a long time. They're coming into the fight. They're well inside the final 30 kilometres now, but for the final 40 kilometres, or at least the last 20 kilometres, they've been fighting it out, attacking one after the other, having a go, and so on and so forth. So you have to now win inside 20 kilometres to go now, and we have definitely seen some of the best racing as breakaway goals since Tour de France started here 10 days ago.
Yeah, we've had 2 good stages, haven't we? A lot of people think, oh, well, we won't bother to watch like the highlights programme on Eurosport. We won't take much interest. Yes, exactly having a, because it's the rolly roads and nothing much will happen. But in reality, a lot of people are trying to settle all scores, jump up the classification, get themselves ready before we get into the periods. And it hasn't finished yet. We've got more stages like this, haven't we? So it's an opportunity for people who have maybe a bit sick to start with, might have had a problem with the crash, now to get back and climb up the classification. And really, we had a cracking day's racing, and Hulo particularly is going to benefit from this, because the last time check we've got on our screen now, in fact, I haven't heard anything at all since that 12.5 minutes, Stephen. Have you heard any more? No, can't find any more. 25 k's to go for the leading group, or the main pack behind them, so the gap is really still there.
Well, Simon had a go there, but Ellie went after him and brought up the bunch with him. So Chavarria is still in front, but because there's 1 or 2 guys in the Confidence team, they're going to have a go one after the other, I think. There's the Wolf having a go now, but Ulo mustn't be great, because he should be actually going in those, having a go with those guys that are going now. We've seen there Ulo sitting back a bit, but at this stage of the race now, we're so close to finish, we should forget about who's riding or who's not riding, and he should basically be jumping onto whatever goes and using up any energy he has to get to the finish as fast as he can. The group, his legs mustn't be great, because we saw him, the group going past, he didn't even get out of the saddle to try and get onto it, so he obviously is not great. As you see Ellie here again with the Wolf on his wheel, trying to get across the gap.
I just broke it up, and just bear in mind, viewers back at home, that these riders have, on this stage 12, so far until this morning, covered 2,100 kilometres. That's 1,312 miles as Etchebarrier goes through the King of the Mountains competition with 19 kilometres to go, and the gap then will be very closely checked back to the...
Dave,
yes.
Francois Simons come across the gap now to Ellie and the Wolf. So I reckon this trio here should go and catch now Etchebarrier before the bottom of the descent, I reckon.
Well, I certainly felt that Etchebarrier or Simon could probably win the stage today. It's coming up towards 4:30 Central European time, so anybody's trying to go in the competition, then they're going to get on the phone quick.
It's coming across the race radio here now that Stefan Ulo has now taken off from the group behind, and he's halfway across this group here. And
you can see there. Oh, there's a crash in the peloton. Telecom, Polti, Vitaly Seguros all come down. Well, a big group behind, still enormously bunched and probably not going too fast at the moment. They've had a crash. Let's hope that nobody of any great consequence has had any serious damage and they can all get back again. So there's Lutz together with Mondini.
The crash in the back of the peloton, Dave, so...
Yeah, it does sound like it.
Roche was in it, yeah.
Yeah, and there, Castelblanco for the Eurosport, Kelme Castelblanco Eurosport teams chasing up this man. About a dozen men went down, according to the radio tour.
Everybody's up now, he reckons.
He's really motoring this fellow, isn't he?
Yeah, everyone's up. Everyone's back up on the bikes on guard, Dave. So looking up, there's one crash, but everyone's nothing serious. Everyone's back on the bikes now.
And Etchebarrier pushing on. I wonder if he knows what the final little flip up at the back end is like. He must have seen it on the maps that they get given, and he's burying himself here. A chap like, I mean, enormously talented rider, but he's been spending most of his time having to ride for Laurent Jalabert. He's been having to, on this occasion, to ride for Alano. But on a day like today, he's got off down the road, and this really can show his talent and quality as a bike rider.
So he's putting in a great ride there, because he went away with some 6 kilometers to go on the climb. So, and he went over like most of it out of the saddle as well. So he's got a lot of strength in those legs. And now the run into the finish is not very hard. It's rolly okay, but more downhill than uphill. So I reckon if the group behind, the 3 guys behind, start looking at each other, he could go to the finish.
Well, the man who won the Tour de l'Avenir way back in 1996. He didn't turn pro until 1995, and then he had a couple of victories as a new pro in the Grand Prix Nevada and the Tour of Rioja. 96 was probably his best year, when he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 victories, including the overall victory in the Tour of the l'Avenir. Last year he won a stage in the Paris-Nice. He's been a great all-rounder, and right now he's trying to win the stage as Hulo tries to get back up to leaders.
The Motorcycling World Championships are tearing to Germany's legendary Sachsenring. With Crevier bossing the 500s, Rossi closing in fast on Ukawa in the 250s, and Azuma pulling away in the 125s. This is the last race before the midsummer break. The German Grand Prix live on Eurosport. Qualifying tomorrow from 12:30 CET, that's 11:30 UK, with the races on Sunday morning from 9:30 CET, that's 8:30 UK.
With Hasseröder, the German premium beer.
Certina, Swiss watches since 1888.
And Suzuki, ride the winds of change. With the World Championships getting ever closer, the world's track and field stars go to Nice this Saturday. It's a record-breaking paradise for distance runners. IAAF Grand Prix 1 Athletics from Nice, Saturday, 17:30 CET, that's 4:30 UK, live on Eurosport. With Isostar, the fast-acting isotonic sports drink. And Rico.
Do you know about the recent football transfers? Which is the new club of Didier Deschamps? Marseille, Bayern Munich, or Chelsea? Eurosport gives you the chance of winning a fantastic multimedia widescreen television set. And that's not all. Eurosport t-shirts are also up for grabs. So, call now. And good luck.
Welcome back once again. We're nearing the closing stages now of this 201.5 kilometre run from Saint-Galmier to Saint-Flour. The leading riders are on the final descent. David Echevarria of Once out on his own. The chase behind him, including François Simon, Alberto Eli, who's meters before, and Steve de Wolf. The gap only 31 seconds. It was going to be nip and tuck as we go back once again to David and Stephen.
You're looking at David Echevarria, and now we're back to Chase Group. Something like 55 seconds over my headphones back to these three, but we did see flash up on the screen during that advertisement break, 1 minute something. So I think they must be going back to what's left of the original 14-man group. But certainly Echevarria is on his own. We've got these Chase Groups spread all over the place as he goes on to try and win the stage into Saint-Flour. The position really is still dramatic as far as Ulo's concerned, because the main group don't seem to be accelerating. We're not getting very good time checks back to that main group, and I'm just looking now to see peloton 12:55, Stephen, 12:55. Ulo's really going. He's always in his group 1 minute back or 55 seconds back on Echevarria. If they go on driving like this, the bunch haven't woken up yet.
No, but at the same time, they've there's the bunch now, yeah. But Ulo should actually be riding in the front. While we went to break there, we see Ulo, he attacked once, and then the two guys got across to him, and he started waving, making great signs at him, as if to say, come on, come through. It's a peloton now with 13 minutes, 12 seconds, Dave. But Ulo was making signs to them, say, come on, come through. But Ulo must realise he's within 20 kilometres to the finish now. He's 13 minutes up. He's a chance of walking already, or cycling into the top three overall on general classification. So it's really over to Ulo to ride the final 19 kilometres. If the guys want to come through, they come through. If they don't want to come through, doesn't matter. He has to put his head down, forget about them, and if they don't come through, then that's too bad for him, you know.
Well, Echevarria start this morning in 27th spot, 28 minutes and 6 seconds down on classification. If he keeps the lead around about 12 minutes, that means he's going to be 18 minutes down on the general classification. So he's likely to move up into around about 16th, 17th place. So he's also going further forward, but not as much as Ulo, who could leap up there into the top 10 places if he keeps this going. So we're watching a very interesting, complex stage today. And I mentioned earlier on that many people say, oh, well, the race is over now till we get to the Pyrenees. It's not. because people can move up when they've had a problem. They can then put themselves on the platform and they can start going again, and they begin to motor adjust a little bit here, but really I'm sure, Stephen, you're entirely right, the other teams have got to chase, because Armstrong still will not be caught out by Hulo, but a lot of other people are going to say, hey, where's this chap come from?
Exactly, and they would know Hulo because he was a yellow jersey in the Tour de France 2 years ago, and since then he's come on a bit as well in climbs and in time trial. But here's a Lampert now coming way back again onto the front again, so this is a tactic where I don't really understand myself, because Piccoli's there again. They're up the Psycho there, you see Laurent Defoe there on the right hand side of the screen there behind his teammate. So the Psycho riders are riding, I understand, but the Lampert team, I can't really understand why they would ride. And
descending, the leaders are off the top of that climb, but the main pack you're seeing on your screen are still climbing up it, because that gap between them, last time checked we had, was 12 minutes and 55 seconds between Echeverria and the main group now on your screen. So whilst the little arrow has been showing you, those you watching it and can see that arrow on your screen, then you'll discover that when we go back there, it's only the lead group. This whole lot have not got over the top of that climb yet, which when they do so, they'll have 19 kilometres to go to finish, and they don't seem to be stretching it out at all.
Well, the US Postal team have totally backed off anyway. I was saying it earlier on, they should do it, but I would have thought at 20k to go. It's a bit late maybe, you know.
So Armstrong could still be happy with a gap between himself and Alano, Zula, Dufo, etc. They'll all be virtually in that position, but Hulo will have jumped right up into contention and probably climbing over certain people's shoulders. That's been a great ride for him today. And also you were talking about this combativity prize from the Coeur de Lion. Although there's a lot of riders in here, would it go in his favour that he's gone so far up the general classification by driving and being in this group today? Or they say no, it goes to Echeverria, or it goes to Simon, or it goes to either Eli or Lely, who started the whole thing going within the first few kilometres of the race. How do the judges work it?
They work on whatever they see the rider doing, and Stephen Hulo is doing a great job there, even though he's maybe not, in my opinion, doing, maybe he's paying too much attention to the other riders in the final here. I would feel that Stephen should be putting his head down and just riding and forgetting about everybody else, and that I'm sure would guarantee him points, extra points in the combativity award. But so far in the last 25-30 kilometres he has done an incredible ride. He's been going with everything, he's been riding very hard and aggressively, so I reckon he will still get a lot of points tonight.
Echeverria is riding down this gentle third category climb like a man possessed. He's just thundering down, opening up a big gap between himself and the remnants of that 14-man leading group, and looks like if he keeps this lot going, he could be in with a shout to get the stage victory for us. So here comes the chase group now, there they are, and so they go underneath, and that's your three men. That's Elliot on the front. Also in there we've got Francois Simon and Davion following on behind, and then even further back we've got the group containing no, it is De Wolf. It is De Wolf. You see, my number.
David De Wolf, yeah.
David De Wolf, that well-known double act. Sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen, because they've been mucking about with the numbers on our form. They've got De Wolf down as 3 on the official handout here, and there he is. And yet we've got 2 as Davion. I thought it looked like De Wolf because he's a tall bloke with this blonde flock of hair. So I'm just going to look at another start list we've got here. And if people have been messing around trying to enter the competition, which is now closed, if I've misled you, then they're terribly sorry about this. But yeah. Another start list I've got here has got De Wolf down as 2. So goodness knows how they've managed to mix that lot around. Davion down as 3. So obviously the other list is right and that one is wrong. They must have put the numbers in the wrong place.
Yeah, I reckon so, yeah.
Right, we're going to get it right now. On that start list is that, and that one is that. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, back there. Davion is a little diddy fellow, and I had my doubts about it. But we'll call him Davion De Wolf and we get it right there.
But we may get a French win today, because we haven't seen any French rider winning a stage yet. So
well, got to catch Echeverria first.
Hulo went very close the other day on up the way, as he was caught some 4 kilometres in the finish after being out there for 100 miles nearly. But with Francois Simon and
the telecom rider Ellie is there.
Ellie there, yeah.
And also the chap who's got a number that doesn't go with our thing, but he's De Wolf, yes.
Yeah.
But De Wolf, I've got you saw that final climb. De Wolf, nice chap, but I just think his legs will seize on that one. I would have put down Simon as a winner today.
Definitely,
but Echeverria is also a good climber. Depends how much he's burnt himself out going off on his own like this. Look at the speed on the clock there. I think it was on 80 k's an hour. That's 50 miles an hour.
Yeah, well, I think if they were to get back on there, I put my money on Francois Simon, because he's going extremely well at the moment, winning the French Championship there the other week there on his own, and so far in the Tour, every day he's been up there. He's got on the attack as well on a number of the flat days, and in great form at the moment. So if it comes down to a sprinter there to catch Xarabia before the finish, although I say no, Ellie's a good sprinter as well, Dave, because Ellie's kind of a guy, wouldn't be a great sprinter in a massive buoyant sprint, but at the same time in a sprint like today, where it's uphill for the final 2 kilometres, a very sharp right-hand U-turn, about 500 metres to the finish, I reckon Ellie or Francois Simon could be the possible winners.
I'm happy I didn't, well, not happy, I'm unhappy I didn't enter the competition today. Yesterday I put Simon down to win the stage yesterday. It was a bit conky towards the end. I thought he might do it. He didn't. Dirksen went away and got it. He was my second yesterday, so I got a few press. I think probably selected him as the winner yesterday. But unfortunately I didn't get time to enter the competition today. But again, Simon's on my mind because that big climb at the back end.
I was just going to say there, Dave, a minute just before the change in the screen came on, that I'm very surprised that Benesto have not yet come to the front in a ride, because first of all they haven't got anybody in front, and second of all Zule's place on the third place overall is, as I've been saying all along, is in jeopardy. So now you have here the Psycho team up there defending for Diffo, and the Benesto team defending for Zule's place. So here we have now a race within a race. And
at long last Benesto woke it up, but it's not a particular sort of course that you could organise a real chase. It's not like one of those long straight roads where you come off the front and get a chain going, because they're fairly, well, reasonably wide roads, but it isn't flat, and it just grinds all the way dead steadily. To get a sort of chain going is not easy, is it?
Well, there's one thing in getting a chain going, but it's another thing in put 1 or 2 of your own riders in the front to try and maintain the group, whereas Benesto have done nothing all day, whereas they've just done it now, like in the final 15 kilometres to go. So
left it a bit late.
Well, yeah, but they must not rate Ulo, otherwise they would have probably started earlier already, because the fact that the US Postal team were riding in the front with a nice tempo, they were content just to sit there and let the US Postal team do all the work.
So you're watching 1 minute 50 seconds back between Echeverria and the little chase group, and then this big peloton. The last time check we had, they were still 12.55 down. I think they'll begin to pull that back a bit, but nevertheless, still that gap looks very dangerous for the chaps in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th spot down. Asula could well jump up into the top half dozen plays. Might even be 2nd or 3rd tonight, then keep it going. That's the main group, with the Psycho boys begin to move on the front, because Dufo from the Psycho team 4th this morning, 8 minutes and 7 seconds down. So he was just 12 minutes and 3 seconds. 12 minutes Ulo, and that gap is still over 12 minutes. So even Dufo is like to lose his place if he doesn't shake a leg again. 5 kilometres to go for these 3 chasing men who've still got Echeverria down the road, 150 ahead. Well, they're in for a big surprise, I think, when they get to finish. He's still drifting down here inside the final 5 kilometres, because the last 2 kilometres, it's an average percentage of 5% is that last little sting in the tail, and I think some of the legs are going to seize up, because the riders you're looking at on your screen have been in or around a breakaway group which formed around about 80 kilometres from the start of the stage today, and they've really done a wonderful job to open up a gap of nearly 13 minutes at one time. So as the leader gets towards and just inside the 4 kilometre mark, this is our chase group here. There's in fact 3 groups. We've got the leader, Echeverria. We've then got the Telecom rider chasing out to try and pull them back with De Wolf, and that's Ellie. Telecom Ellie. De Wolf for Cofidis. Here he is on your screen, and lots for the Rabobank team. These are the men who are just now maybe 1 minute 50 back on Echeverria, and then there's other 3 chaps chasing other. And what if our camera goes round here? This is an old, on the right hand side, so that building there, that's a place full of antiques, and they've got old bicycles around the outside, all rusted up, and some nice bikes from the 1930s. I don't know if they know the value of them, but they've been sitting out to rot out there to advertise the antique showroom which we've just been past. Well, these are the 3 chasers. That's the same on now, trying to knock some life back into his legs. He might be cramping up, and who could blame him after the stage today? When we get to finish, they'll cover 201 kilometres in all, and these riders have done the thick end of 120 kilometres out in the lead and demolished the main contenders back in the main pack, put them over 12 minutes back, and Echeverria here heading towards what could well be a victory for him this morning, starting in 27th spot. He'll move up a little bit, but really Hulo has to go some to go even better. In the distance, you can see Saint-Fleur. That quick look suddenly at the top of that
24 seconds, Dave. 24 seconds.
Saint-Fleur. 24 seconds. They're coming back then, aren't they?
Yeah.
They
3 kilometres, Dave. Very difficult, I think. Because once these buyers get another kilometre, so they start looking at each other again. So they start losing momentum, which will go down into Xabrier's hands.
Well, he has faded a little bit then, because it's well than 1:02, but near to 1:50 at one point back to the third group. This lot wedged in between, and if we get another shot again of the cathedral distance to give you some idea of the climb, as powering around the front here, Telecom rider Ellie giving it all he's got.
Yes, Dave, but you can see they are starting to back off now, so I don't know. It'd be very hard to get him back, but at the same time, with the finish being an uphill finish, I don't know. I find it difficult to think that he could be caught, because even though he'd be weak, the other guys, 3 guys behind, once they get into the final kilometre, they're going to start looking at each other, because obviously the guy who does the work to close the gap down is actually writing his chances of winning the stage. So I reckon they will start looking at each other now any minute, and have to make the group lose momentum and play into Xavier's hands.
Well, it's often near to a rider's birthday he does his best performance. He was born on the 23rd of July 1973, so in fact this young rider here is coming up to his
22 seconds, Dave, so it's coming down very slowly, but not enough, I would think.
So he's coming towards his 26th birthday, and he spent most of his time working for Laurent Jalabert, the man in the lead. Back here, Simon, and this is the man up in of Spain in 1994. When he turned pro in 1995, he won the Grand Prix Navarra and also the Volta La Rioja. He got this was one of the sort of neo-pro races. He got that one. 96 was his best performance 3 years ago, when he won 3 stages and the overall, 2 stages in the overall in the Tour Quencher. He went on in the Tour de l'Avenir to get a stage victory in that and to run out overall victor in that race. In 1997, he went and took a stage in the Tour of the Mining Valleys, and then he took a stage in the Tour of Switzerland, which we covered on Eurosport that year. I remember him in his jersey and romping along, and really, as they played domestique for Laurent Jalabert, but he did get a chance in 1998 to get a stage in the Paris-Nice, and that's the man on your screen as this goes up and up and up. It's not a bit of flat at all right the way toward the finish. Just when he comes around the last 150 metres, it more or less levels up, but I won't call it a real levelling off. He's going to hurt all the way up this last kilometre. The crowd urging on the rider from the Once Deutsche Bank team. They've not had the sort of tour they would like, I don't think, because their best placed man, Abra Milano, is in second spot, 7 minutes 42 seconds back. They could have a stage victory on their belt as the rest try to pull him back.
Steam has gone away, Dave.
Yeah, De Wolf gets blown out the back, and not surprising, Luke, either to see that the Deutsche Telekom rider, Ellie, has also had the difficulty, because he was away right from the start. He was over the top of the first climb of the Col de la Croix d'Aumont after 30 kilometres. When Ellie went away, started the platform for the 14-men group to break away, and so now suddenly the man with the hammers got onto the knees of the Telecom rider Ellie. Simon is holding the pace, but can he pull back these 20 seconds as Echeverria looks back now? If he blows a gasket, if he suddenly falters, Simon will be at him, because Simon can see him. It's a long straight stretch here. We get a sharp hairpin right-hand bend just ahead. The Basque flag is waving it. He's a Basque rider too. That's amazing. And all the way here, that's Saint-Fleur, right in the Auvergne region, on the edge of the Massif Central. There's a Basque flag for a Basque rider. Out to the saddle he goes. These have been ideal conditions for him today. Glorious sunshine, rolling roads, and he's been in his element. That's great, eh?
Yeah, it's great. They have a very, very good tactical race he's ridden today, and a great pursuit he's ridden over the last 25 kilometres as well. Unfortunately for Francois Simon, who has come close once again to winning a stage, and with it being French national champion, it would have been a great stage for him to have won today, but there's always other stages for Francois to win.
And David Echeverria comes from Abdiano in the Vizcaya region of Spain, and I'm sure that our Spanish commentators for Eurosport are absolutely going bananas about this one too. We had so many different winners in the tour so far each day, except for we had Tom Stills and Cipollini batting out in the flat stage, but it's been changing ever since then, and now Echeverria is going to get his name on the list of riders who won a stage in the Tour of France. stage winner last year in the Pyrenees, year before stage victory in the Tour of the Mining Valleys, year before that stage victories in the Tour de l'Avenir. That's the race for riders of the future. He's proved he had a future, and he's come good at this point in his career then to take the victory in Saint-Flour. Today's success going to David Echeverria of the Once Deutsche Bank
Simon's
team.
gone again, Dave. Huh?
Simon's trying to come up into second spot. He should be able to make it. The French public will be watching on the giant screen. They've been listening on the radios too. Hope for him to get a victory, but it's not going to be so. But still, the French champion betters himself to come into second spot on this stage. A worthy ride for the young French champion here, looking back. And there you can see behind him one of the giants of the road today, because Lely and Ellie both went away for the first climb of the day, and in the end the only man to survive from that early breakaway group to get a podium position is Ellie of the Telecom team. De Wolf coming in for the Cofidis team, who launched 3 men in that breakaway group but did not get the stage success. Specialist climber coming up here, Castelblanco from Kelmy, looks like he's going to make the 4th spot. They are absolutely in penny numbers. You've been watching the stage today and this breakaway group. 13 minutes 20 seconds is the gap back to the main group, so wait till we see when Ulo comes in here, because he's really going to move up the general classification, but perhaps not as much as it would have been if he could have driven that group a bit stronger.
Castelblanco's 5th, Eddie's 6th. Here's Ulo in now, Dave.
And the clock running there shows that he's lost that 1 minute 30 seconds, but the big check will be back between Ulo and
the bunch.
So I've got my watch running. I've got my watch running anyway on that one. Yeah. People laugh at me. I have 2 wristwatches, one on either side. I say, well, I've got 2 wristwatches. I'd have 2 wristwatches. The point is, I've got one with big letters, one which counts out the seconds, the big stopwatch, rather than the other one which has got the analog signals. That's a digital one I've got on the other side, and I'm just going to wait to see what happens here. Let's look back again at the victor of today's stage into Saint-Flour, David Echeverria of the Once Deutsche Bank team, surviving from that group of riders which came together after some 80 kilometres of racing. They drove an enormous wedge between themselves and the chasers, and he just leapt away to take the victory.
Well, that was a tremendous stage victory for David Echeverria, and it was a full 12 minutes and 35 seconds before the first man in the peloton crossed the line, Eric Zabel, and thus he took over the green jersey as points leader. But he was a long, long way behind the winner, David Echeverria, the former winner of the Tour de l'Avenir, and that was really quite a performance, and very much a repeat, really, of 24 hours previously when Ludo Dierksens won on the stage from Le Bourg-d'Oisans to Saint-Étienne. We caught up with David when he got his breath back, and we asked him about the win. Well, he said it's the best thing that could have happened to me just to be here on the Tour de France is great enough, but to have a victory like that is even better. It's very difficult to win a stage on the Tour. You've got to have a little bit of luck, and today it happened for me. During the race, I thought we'd all probably arrive at the finish together, the 14 of us. I knew the last 2 kilometres or so were a long climb, which suits my style of riding, but it's better to arrive alone. It means the victory's more comfortable than perhaps it might otherwise be. I escaped early on the climb, although you never know what could happen. But thankfully for me, it all went well, and I'm very happy. I think we probably gathered that, didn't we? Yep, smiles again, just like Dierksens the day before. But behind him, you know, one of the heroes of the day was Alberto Elli, seen crossing the line there, looking very, very tired, because he'd started it all so many miles or kilometres before and still managed to race. He said, well, there are successful breaks sometimes because we've passed the Alps and the overall ranking's clear. It's fairly normal to have this kind of situation, Alps and the Pyrenees. It's the time for long breakaways, as we saw on the road to Saint-Étienne. Today again and tomorrow, we'll probably have another similar sort of break, and it'll probably work so long as Lance Armstrong, the overall leader, doesn't himself feel too threatened. The views of Alberto Elli, the man who started it and still finished third. And that was quite a good performance for him, really, out in front for such a long, long way. Well, apart from Alberto Elli, there are always a lot of other heroes on any day of a stage in the Tour de France, and one of them is the leading young rider, Benoit Salmon of Casino has been battling away not just for that particular competition, but also for the overall. He's still quite well placed. He said the start of the stage today was very hard with all those early attacks. It was exhausting. But I must say, I was feeling quite good for quite some time, until one point where I hurt my knee. I banged it on the handlebars and I suffered quite a bit until the end of the stage. He was asked, well, a breakaway succeeded for a second day. Would you say that perhaps the Tour isn't quite over just yet? He says maybe, but as US Postal still control the race, they're always allowing riders in the break who aren't dangerous in terms of the overall ranking. The views of the young rider from Casino, Benoit Salmon, leading the under-25 competition for the moment. More in a moment or two after this short break. Well, let's take a look at the stage result in Saint-Fleur now. That win by Echeverria, leaving him 25 seconds clear of Simon, 33 ahead of Elie, and 40 ahead of De Wolf. But of course, a massive 12 minutes, nearly 12 and a half minutes ahead of the peloton. Here are the views of Stephen Roche.
Well, today's stage was a fabulous stage. Right from the start, it was absolutely great. 60 kilometres when the group of 14 riders split into 8 and 6 behind, and then we saw Stephen Hulot then fighting to get back on again to try and maintain what he'd set out to do, and that was to gain place on general classification. He's now up to 6th place overall, so a very good manoeuvre by the Française de Joux rider.
Well, it certainly was. I don't think anybody would disagree with Stephen Roche's view on that, putting him up to 6th overall. But, you know, he wasn't the only hero. What about Echeverria himself? What did Stephen Roche think about the Ancien Man's solo win?
I think, first of all, Echeverria was going very, very strong. And in the final 3 or 4 kilometres, the group of François Simon and Elie finally start looking at each other and they start losing momentum. But I think Echeverria was going very, very strong today. He was a man on a mission today. So once he got away with some 25 kilometres to go, it was difficult to get him back.
There's something else would change today. It's a green jersey. Eric Szabo took it back.
Yeah, we saw today the change of shoulders of the green jersey. Unfortunately, Stuart O'Grady lost the jersey today to Eric Zabel. Stuart has not been going very well the last few days. He unfortunately got held up behind a crash with some 40 kilometres to go, but I don't think Stuart himself was very happy with the stage. Maybe he's just looking forward now to getting through to the rest day next Monday in the hope of maybe taking back the jersey in the flat stages before and after the Pyrenees.
Well, that should be some battle if Stuart has got anything left in those legs. I noticed he was carrying a bit of a knee injury. We'll just have to wait and see as those flatter stages come round again. So no change in the first 5 on overall, but look at that. Suddenly Stefan Hulot is right up to 6th overall, only 9 minutes and 10 seconds behind the leader. But of course, crucially, less than a minute and a half behind 2nd place and 3rd, Olano and Zuller. So as Stephen said, that was a remarkable move by Hulot. But let's take a look at the podiums now. Armstrong still in yellow, of course, and what a super time he is having on this Tour de France so far. The Texan really enjoying himself. But a new face now for the green jersey, Eric Zabel. Not new totally, of course, on this tour maybe, but of course he's won it for himself in Paris on the 3 previous occasions. The polka dot jersey, no change there. Still Richard Virenque leading in the King of the Mountains competition. Now, just before we look ahead to stage 13, let's take a little look at the long-standing rivalry in the peloton between the 2 Spanish teams, Oncé and Benesto. Only 3 seconds separating Olano and Zuller from those respective teams at the moment, and it's no secret that they really see themselves as great rivals. The Benesto manager, José Miguel Echevarri, had this to say. He said, we don't actually have any enemies. It's more like we're sporting rivals. Of course, if they're Spanish rivals for us, then so much the better. It's more interesting for the Spanish public. Escartin's a perfect example, and of course so too is Olano. Alex Zuller, he's not Spanish, but to us he seems as if he's Spanish, and certainly to the fans, because everybody in Spain really loves him. There's a shot of Abraham Olano, one of the adversaries involved in the rivalry. Manolo Seitz, the Oncé director sportif, said the object, of course, is to win. If you don't win or don't come second, you've really nothing to fight for. You're fighting for supremacy. The rest's not important. And if we beat the others, that's great for us. Well, that's the side of the Benesto team van, some of their cars. And what about the view now of the former Benesto rider, Dominique Arnaud, who's on the tour and watching it with great interest. He says this rivalry between ONCE and Benesto has existed for a long time. It's good for Spanish cycling in general because it produces a higher level of competition. Until now, ONCE have been very defensive, but Zula's proving to be very tough this year. So ONCE now have to use an offensive way. ONCE must find a new strategy in order to drop Zula, because now Zula's come back on Olano in the overall standings. So the rivalry, I think, is very keen, and it looks as though it's going to be very exciting between them all the way to Paris. I'm sure he's absolutely right. However, it's almost time for us now to take a look ahead to stage 13. Stage 13, of course, taking the riders on to Albi. And as ever, we ask one of our experts to take a look at the upcoming stage. And as ever, it's Stephen Roche.
The last two stages have been very, very competitive. We've seen some incredible riding by the riders. We've seen groups going away and getting 9-10 minutes ahead of the main field. Tomorrow's stage into Albi, I reckon, will be something similar. There's 7 climbs in all tomorrow, so it's going to be very, very difficult for Lance Armstrong's team to be able to defend alone. I think tomorrow we're going to see some more groups going away, getting 10 minutes up on the main field again. So I think it's going to be very difficult for the US Postal team to defend, and they'll probably need the help of the Benesto team or the ONCE team tomorrow to defend the top 3 places overall in general classification.
So do you think that tomorrow can be a key day for Lance Armstrong and his team?
I think every day is another day for Lance Armstrong. I think the big mountain stages Lance probably prefer because it's much easier for them to control. These undulating roads, not even 1 metre, not even 1 yard of flat roads, makes it very hard for any team to defend. I think tomorrow is going to be another very hard day, very, very animated, loads of entertainment for anybody watching it here on Eurosport. And as far as I'm concerned, tomorrow will be a very, very competitive and very attacking day.
And one thing that Stephen didn't mention there, I'll tell you now, it's the longest stage of the Tour de France, stage 13, 236.5 kilometres between Saint-Flour and Albi. So that's something to be borne in mind. Well, we go live with stage 13 at 3:05 CET. That's 2:05 in the UK. And we'll be on with the highlights at 20:09, not the caption that you see there, 20:09 CET, and that's 20:08 in the UK. I hope you'll join us. Till then, this is Mike Smith saying, for the moment, bye for now.
Tour de France.
France stage 12 today. Lance Armstrong leads tonight by 7:44 from Abraham Olano. Armstrong in the main group, 12:35 though off the pace today. That pace was set by David Extiberi of Spain. He's given Spain, in fact, their first Tour de France stage win since 1997. A lone attack it was by the Spaniards, leaving a chase group of Simon, Elie and Wolf to try and make up ground, but it was too much for them and all the rest, and in the end, a fine win by the former amateur champion of Spain, coming home to win by 25 seconds. He had this to say afterwards, or saying here during the stage, I thought we'd arrived together. I knew the last 2K were uphill. That was good for my style though, but it was good to arrive alone, I thought. It made victory more secure for me. So all went well. Great day for the Spaniards. Elsewhere, Eric Zabel took over the green jersey from the Aussie Stu O'Grady. Zabel leads by 3 points tonight. The telecom sprinter getting the green jersey. But still, it's Lance Armstrong and the US Postal Team with much to shout about. Armstrong leading by 7:44 from Abraham Alano. French rider Christophe Basson, considered the symbol of drug-free cycling since last year's Festina scandal, has left the Tour because of stress. Now, Basson wrote an article expressing surprise over the performance of Lance Armstrong. His roommate Stéphane Herlot said pressure. This was a reaction of his team director, Marc Madiot. Or saying here, Madiot simply reminded him to think about the race and rest if he needed to. It turns out that physically, although I support his stand and his attitude, I can't excuse his behaviour. Christophe Basson out of the Tour de France.
Every riders use this one. Every riders in the team or someone refused.
Elsewhere, the casino rider Laurent Roux, the Frenchman, has been banned for 6 months for failing a drugs test. Now, Roux is not on the Tour de France. He was found positive for amphetamines on the Flèche Wallonne last April. This is what it relates to. And he's been banned till April 2000, has Roux. Marco Pantani has received Italy's highest sporting accolade, the Golden Collar in Rome. It was presented to him by the Italian Prime Minister, Massimo D'Alema, who wanted Pantani to carry on racing. Well, that was confirmed yesterday when he said he would be aiming for the World Championships in Treviso. But this making up for the disappointments of not going on the Tour de France, Pantani getting his collar.